Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, where you learn how to extract your business and personal deep wealth. I'm your host, Jeffrey Feldberg. This podcast is brought to you by Deep Wealth and the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your business deep wealth, your exit or liquidity event is the most important financial decision of your life. But unfortunately, up to 90% of liquidity events fail. Think about all that time and your hard-earned money wasted. Of the quote-unquote successful liquidity events, most business owners leave 50% to over 100% of the deal value in the buyer's pocket and don't even know it. I should know. I said no to a seven-figure offer and yes to mastering the art and the science of a liquidity event. 2 years later, I said yes to a different buyer with a 9-figure deal. Are you thinking about an exit or liquidity event? Don't become a statistic and make the fatal mistake of believing the skills that built your business are the same ones to sell it. After all, how can you master something you've never done before? Let the 90-Day Deep Wealth Experience and the 9-step roadmap of preparation help you capture the best deal instead of any deal. At the end of this episode, take a moment and hear from business owners like you who went through the Deep Wealth Experience. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast, and wow, is this a special episode for you. This is a roundtable. We have 6 experts, literally from the trenches, all about your health. And after all, your health is your first wealth, and your financial wealth, and how to live an optimized life. What you'll hear in the roundtable, you will not hear anywhere else. And you'll hear about a very special program that they have for business owners of how in a few days you can completely transform both your health, your business life, and your overall life. So with that said, let me give an official introduction for each of our experts. Since embarking on his financial services career in 1979, Bryan Sweet has been dedicated to guiding individuals not only in wealth accumulation, but also in wealth protection. Renowned for his trademark approach, the Dream Architect and the Dream Architect Life, he's been featured in prestigious publications like Forbes, Inc., Barron's, and the Wall Street Journal, shaping the dreams of affluent individuals for decades. Bryan's extensive industry knowledge has led him to co-create entities like the Ultimate Advisor Coaching and the Elite Wealth Advisor Symposium, bolstering high-performance financial advisors nationwide in business expansion. Ultimately, Bryan's passion lies in empowering others to attain the growth and freedom he's achieved through the establishment of multi-world-class enterprises, all while having his own dream life. Brittany Anderson, co-founder of Dare to Dream Enterprises and co-host of the Dream Architect Life podcast, embodies true entrepreneurship. Apart from being the president and shareholder of a leading wealth planning firm, she has spearheaded numerous business ventures across diverse industries. Brittany's insights have garnered recognition in esteemed media like Forbes, Barron's, the Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, Inc., Private Wealth Magazine, and Asset TV. A prolific 4-time author, she's graced exclusive events such as the $1 Million Roundtable Global Conference, Raymond James National Conference, and Elite Wealth Advisor Symposium, sharing her wisdom and transcending titles and labels to lead a purposeful and intentional life. Brittany's contagious energy and unparalleled ability to guide people towards their purpose will become evident as you engage with her. Mike Koenigs is a serial entrepreneur with 5 successful exits, a 17 times best-selling author, and a captivating speaker. He's the secret weapon of founders looking to create and launch a new business after an exit, build a magnetic personal brand that multiplies the value of everything they do, all in just 1 week. Mike is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs create high net, low overhead, high impact, and lifestyle compatible businesses that allows them to fully unleash their unique superpowers. His expertise and success have led him to work with major brands and high profile clients, including Sony, BMW, 20th Century Fox, Best Buy, and 3M. As a pioneer in teaching generative AI for executives, Mike has taken the stage at prestigious events such as Tony Robbins gatherings and Peter Diamandis Abundance 360 conferences, MIT, EO, YPO, TLC, Strategic Coach, Genius Network, and Dave Asprey's biohacking events, inspiring and educating audiences with his innovative AI insights and systems. Cade Archibald is one of the leading peptide specialists in the nation and serves as a regenerative therapy and peptide consultant at the award-winning clinic he founded in 2004, East West Health, an integrated pain specialist. Regan is the founder of Go Wellness and the creator of the Peptide Mastery course. He's a member of the International Peptide Society. He's the author of 8 books, including Never Stop Healing and Your Health Transformation. If not teaching, writing, or working with patients in office or virtually, you'll find Regan in the Wasatch Mountains with his wife Jessica and his kids Zoe, Dominic, and Jonah. He loves to ski, snowboard, mountain bike, take ice baths, biohack, and is passionate about bringing art back into the practice of medicine. Cade Archibald, a co-founder of East West Health, embarked on a health journey that led him to shed 50 pounds and sparked his interest in integrated wellness. Partnering with his brother Regan in 2013, he channeled his personal transformation into a mission to revolutionize healthcare. A seasoned professional in sales and operations, Cade masterfully drives the growth of East West Health with strategic systems and processes. His past experiences and transformative health journey equip him to provide patients with a holistic, tailored approach to wellness. Cade seamlessly blends his business acumen with his passion for health, propelling East West Health's vision. His dedicated leadership ensures that the clinic stays at the cutting edge of medical advancements, offering the most effective evidence-based health solutions along with best-in-class client experience. Dr. Anthony Sparks is with Advanced Longevity, which is a pioneer in body scan technology, a revolutionary health approach designed to detect issues before they become life-threatening. Dr. Sparks is passionate about helping others stay ahead of deadly diseases and aging itself. Advanced Longevity's 30-30-30 philosophy identifies immediate health concerns in the first 30 days, creates a personalized program to transform your health in 30 months, and utilizes DNA testing to maximize your health span for 30 or more years. So with the official introductions out of the way, let's jump right into the roundtable. So here we go. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. And you heard it in the official introduction. We have some business and health royalty in the house today. And for all you business owners out there in Deep Wealth Land, I have a question to you. You know that your health is your first wealth. But how do you make your health your first wealth? You have all these zeros in the bank account. Are you going to be around to enjoy it? Are you going to be able to maximize your capital even before your liquidity event? And how do you make sure you're vibrant and you have a wonderful, productive life ahead of you? So that's what we're going to talk about, but I'm going to put a plug in it right there because we have everyone on the call today. Really excited to have everyone here. And let me ask all of you, because it's always our favorite question here. There's a story behind the story. So what's the story with Wealth Longevity International? Where is that coming from? What's going on? How did that start?
All right, I can begin. This is Mike Koenigs, and we have all done business together. And I think the underlying concepts here, and I can speak from a personal story, is 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3A colorectal cancer. I didn't know I had cancer until I was bleeding. And I went in and had a colonoscopy. The doctor came out and said, you have a 5.5 centimeter tumor above your rectum. And I don't need a biopsy to know what you have. If you don't get that thing cut out, you're a dead man in less than 6 months. And I'm 57. So I was at 44, 45 years old. And I went through major surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, which basically took 2 years off my life, took me from my business, my wife, my son, and obviously just about cost me my life. So I learned a lot from that. And thankfully, I had some great doctors, got some integrative docs. But if you fast forward a little bit, I spent time with Steve Marler, who's the founder of Advanced Body Scan, Advanced Longevity. He had done over 150,000 scans along with Dr. Sparks and their team. And they had this great set of tools for diagnosing any kind of health challenge, basically. And this is using CT, MRI, MRA, blood, cancer screening, ultrasound. And it turns out 80% of all adults over the age of 40 have an undiagnosed asymptomatic health condition. And then I'd also met and started working with Regan Archibald, who specializes in extending your health span, extending your lifespan with all sorts of resources and tools, including peptides. I started working with him and I felt remarkably better, started referring him to lots of people. And then I'd also known Bryan Sweet and Brittany Anderson for years, who are in the wealth business and understand exits and financial planning and wealth generation. And we all got together and said, what if we combined all this with the goal of the best way to create unbelievable retention and deep connected relationships with your customers is, first of all, keep them alive, keep them mobile, but also when you put 20 couples together in a spouse-friendly environment and you show them how to get aligned and on the same health focus and life extension focus, their hearts open. When their hearts open, amazing deals happen. People create lifelong friends and find that when they're all on the same page and they learn together, they also want to play together. They want to create long-term friendships. And as we like to say, there's the family you're born into, there's the family you choose. This is like this amazing group of people that you choose to be with. And we've seen people do $500 million deals that have come to our events. In addition to couples are starting to have conversations they've never had together before. So it's a new form of intimacy.
Mike, I love that. And thankfully, you're able to get yourself into a better place health-wise. And for the business owner out there, Mike, who's hearing your story and is saying, okay, yeah, that's all fine and good for you, Mike. You know what? I will worry about my health a little bit later on. I've got to get my business to a certain point. And like the old saying, which we don't agree with here at Deep Wealth, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'll worry about my health a little bit later after I've achieved the success. What would you, Mike, or the team, what would you say to that listener right now who's saying, I don't have the time for this health and I'll get to it when I get to it?
I'm going to hold back because between Regan and Brian and Brittany, because they've been through these cycles, and obviously Dr. Sparks, who hears this all the time. I'm curious what you guys say.
I can jump in, and this is Regan Archibald. And I think, that's heroic if you want to sleep when you're dead, but it's certainly not a recipe for being in a good mood. Last time I checked. So, but really for those entrepreneurs, what we find is that when health improves, everything improves. And I've had entrepreneurs who, they're in their 40s, their early 40s, and they're burned out. I just spoke to one of my entrepreneurs who built a big company. He was selling makeup, of all things. And he literally got hooked on pain prescriptions. And so it took us almost 3 years to get him off those pain prescriptions. He sold his business for a big multiple. And now, it's 3 years later, he's just now back to the health that he was at 10 years before he started the business. And so he looks at me today and he said, I wish I would have taken care of my health along the way. There was no reason for me to burn myself out and to let my body get deteriorated at the rate that it did. And he thinks he could have sold it for an even higher multiple if he would have taken care of his health on the way. And so I think there's this beautiful thing that happens when health becomes your foundation, that everything gets better in life. Your relationships get better, especially your relationship with yourself. You hallucinate less when cash flow is tight. You don't think the whole business is going under in a day. You also have a bigger vision. You're more creative, and you're going to recruit and hire better talent because of the person that you are. And so what Wealth Longevity International has done, Jeffrey, is we've created an environment where people can come and they can learn from each other. So you can learn from someone else's mistakes, because we will have people in the room who are those entrepreneurs who wish that they could go back in time and would have taken care of their health, taken care of their relationships. Now they realize there's always a second chance in life, which is the beautiful thing. But our hope with Wealth Longevity International is that, we get the advanced diagnostics when we run their blood labs. We show them exactly where their deficiencies are, or how their hormones are functioning. We find that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially men, their testosterone levels are in the 200 and 300s. And so we want to get that up to closer to 1,000. They'll just feel a lot better. I know when Dr. Sparks looks at their imaging, their CAT scans, their MRIs, their ultrasounds, he's seeing a lot of things that could take them out of the game in the next 5 to 10 years if they don't make big changes. And so I think Wealth Longevity International is the framework that anybody can come to and get a complete reset when it comes to their overall life and their health.
And with the Wealth Longevity International, you can correct me if I'm on base or off base, this is an all-in-one platform. So from your financial health to your personal health, to the business health, really it's a one-stop shop. You're not having to make separate appointments, fly all over the country to see the world's best. It's all happening in one place. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say, this is Bryan Sweet. I would say that is absolutely true. And, I've personally been a client of Dr. Marler's clinic and Regan's clinic. And the thing that I have found is not only am I doing much better myself, but at our wealth management firm, we had a bunch of clients come into the clinic and go through a similar experience to this. And the most impactful thing that we found is one of our clients had a widowmaker that was 95% blocked, and they had no idea. And literally, we saved a client's life by them being exposed to this type of experience. And so it's just kind of remarkable where all the latest medical advances, longevity, threat detection, things as it relates to your wealth, exit planning ideas and strategies to help grow and maximize your business. And then we'll also have AI and how to use artificial intelligence and lots of other guest speakers come in, but all in one place, like you said, Jeffrey.
So what's really novel about this, we're taking on the one hand, the business, we're taking the health, we're taking our financial freedom and really putting it all together in one place where we're broadening our network, perhaps having future deals. But let me ask you this, because some stats were mentioned earlier, and I'm going to round up a little bit. I know that 9 out of 10 Americans have some kind of metabolic disease or are heading that way. We don't even know it. And the new normal for us is we don't realize how bad we really feel because we forgot what it's like to actually feel healthy. And in that, I'm going to include emotional health, mental health, financial health, all those things that are maybe gnawing away at us. And so on the business side, on the personal side, on the health side, to borrow a company slogan, we're all richer than we think. We just don't know it yet. Talk to us about how we're doing this, how at Wealth Longevity International, we're actually opening up the eyes to see, the ears to hear, how we are really richer than we think in all areas of our life.
Yeah, I can chime in on this one. This is Brittany Anderson, the only lady of the group, so there's no confusion. So, one of the things that we've, really seen happen is that a lot of times entrepreneurs and business owners, they're great at threat detection within their business. They're good at looking for things that can maybe take them down there, that could get in their way, and they're great at capitalizing on opportunities there. But what we found is that they get to a certain point, and instead of looking at things so singularly, they really start to expand across, we'll call it multiple pillars. And what we're trying to do is help open people's eyes to that threat detection concept when it comes to their health, when it comes to their overall wealth plan, when it comes to experiences and purpose, and really leaning into that next chapter of their life. So to Brian's point, we've really brought this all under one roof so that we can help give them preventative measures and proactive opportunities to really make sure that they're maximizing every aspect of their life versus just singularly in their business or singularly in their health or singularly in their wealth. We all shared this common vision, and that's what really brought it all together under one roof.
Brittany, I love that story of how you're putting it all together under one roof. And let me have that as a segue. And I want to go to Dr. Sparks for just a moment, because it sounds like really 22nd century medicine, or from Star Trek. You talk about these body scans. So what's going on with that? What do we need to know that we probably don't? And I'm going to add, by the time we find out through the popular media, it's probably too late for us already. So what's going on?
It's interesting talking about business and wealth and all these people that have been really successful. One thing that's very key and common in business is data, right? Business is a very data-driven, analytical kind of thing, but a lot of people don't think about that when it comes to their health. And so that's, the main thing that we're doing here is giving people a massive amount of data that they can now start to analyze and start to iterate as you start to make changes towards having better health. And going along with that, growing up in the medical system, in terms of all my training, I was able to go to some really amazing places and do some amazing things, but kept saying over and over that we don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system. We're waiting until people are in really dire straits and they're winding up in a hospital with somebody like me, saving them from a stroke or from a GI bleed or some other terrible situation that's, literally has them on their deathbed. But if you're able to rewind, whether it's 30 days or 3 years or 10 years, and go back to start to find some of those root causes that get you to the point you're at today, that's when you can really start to make powerful changes in people's lives. And so that's really what our goal is, to start to change people's thinking, start thinking about a healthcare system that's truly more of that health, it's wellness, it's longevity. But it starts with data, and it starts with those analytics that you have to obtain by looking inside yourself. And so that's really what we do with the imaging. And it's amazing, before I started working with Steve, I didn't really, you find things, as a physician, you see people that are sick all the time, but it doesn't really strike you how often people are walking around that are quote unquote normal and happy and healthy that have serious problems that just haven't made themselves apparent yet. So On a daily basis, we find people with high calcium scores that are at risk for a heart attack. On at least a weekly basis, we have people that have cancer that have zero symptoms, and even beyond those kind of acute, deadly, kind of eye-catching issues. We also have people that just have chronic illness, that have fatty liver disease, that have kidneys that aren't functioning properly. That we can find that data, and again, give them that information, that they can start to make changes. And I think that's something that's really appealing to business owners that are so data-driven and analytical.
Dr. Sparks, I love that because it sounds like it's an early warning system, just like our car. Hey, you're going to run out of gas soon. You better fill up and get some gas. We're doing the same thing on the health side. And so taking what you're saying, Dr. Sparks, and I want to go now to Regan and Cade because so Dr. Sparks and team find out some things that's going on with us. I know the basic assumption out there with people, well, feeling this way, it's normal because that's what getting old really means. And it isn't, but that's social programming. That's the sick care system. That's what's going on. So peptides, what the heck is a peptide? What's going on with that? And how do we start reversing some of those things so that when we're 60, that's the new 20 or 30 with these peptides? What is this? Is it too good to be true, or is there something going on with this?
Man, I think it's not too good to be true, but if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I'd be like, nah, there's no way. But what we're seeing is in our bodies. So if you think of what causes aging, I just look at it very simply. It's interferences and deficiencies. So interferences are like toxins, it's the epigenome, it's all those things that bring our health down. It's the stressors, the chemicals we're exposed to, the infections, the emotional stress, the physical traumas. But the deficiencies are deficiencies in peptides. So if you think of peptides, that's the way our cells communicate. So if we want to turn on genes, one cell will send to another cell communication in the form of a peptide. And that peptide will go in and turn on different genes and turn off other genes. And if you can keep your peptide reservoirs stocked and fully supplied, then you can actually start creating this amazing rejuvenation process in the body. So there's peptides that we use to trigger growth hormone, for example, because by the age of 50, we're all at least 50% depleted in growth hormone, which means our muscles aren't as stable as they used to be. We don't sleep as deep. We don't recover as well as we used to. We end up with what's called sarcopenia, which is where our blood vessels get brittle and we start substituting fat in place of muscle. And so there's peptides to help stimulate that naturally. There's also peptides for mitochondria, and that's probably the most exciting research that I've seen on age reversal medicine is on what happens to the mitochondria. And so now there's a new peptide, SS31, and we're finding that can go inside of the mitochondria and start correcting these mitochondrial imbalances so that you can start recovering from dementia or early onset Alzheimer's. We're also seeing that it ameliorates kidney disease, which is also common as we age to have our kidneys start to fail. We see another peptide that MOD-SC is the closest thing that mimics exercise is this peptide called MOT-C. And the Japanese population that seem to live longer than most, they have this C peptide more phenotypically expressed than the rest of us. So I think there's a whole world of peptides. And so far, there's 7,000 known peptides in the human body. And we've only sequenced about 10% of those, or close to 700. The first peptide ever sequenced was insulin, and it saved millions, if not billions, of lives by now. And insulin's just a peptide. And so we've just built on the peptides ever since then over the last 100 years. And so I'm really excited to see what the next 100 years brings when it comes to peptides, because we've just scratched the surface.
And Regan, I think one of the things that I found fascinating, not being in the healthcare business, is that peptides are all natural. And so, obviously they've got to be better than something that's, made up. I found that really fascinating, but no one had typically ever heard of what a peptide was.
Now, Brian, you read my mind on that, and Regan and Cade is going to ask you, if I want to fill my bank account up, my financial bank account, if that's been depleted, I'll go to Brittany, I'll go to Brian and say, okay, take over. I've been a horrible investor. You guys take over. And on the wealth side, let's get things going. So it sounds like on the health side, peptides, which are natural, they're not synthetic, they're not going to have the side effects that we typically find with prescription drugs. Would I be on base with that?
Yes. And there are some, peptides, just like anything, you can do it the wrong way and you can actually have side effects. But in general, the majority of the peptides that we use, if you end up taking twice the amount, your body just discards what it doesn't need. So, but once again, you don't want to get peptides off the black market. 4 out of 5 peptides that are used right now, people are finding them on these rogue websites, and it's not as advertised. So you want to make sure you're getting it from a reputable source, ideally from a compounded pharmacy that follows all the FDA criterias. That's where we get all of our peptides. And at our events at WLI and the upcoming event at the Wizard Academy, we will have peptides there. I host what's called a peptide party. And so everybody gets to try some of these cool peptides. It's pretty fun.
Oh, sounds like a lot of fun. Sign me up. Let's do it. I mean, who doesn't want to feel younger and feel more vibrant, go back to the way we used to feel? So let me ask you this, whether it's on the financial side or the emotional health side or the business side or health in general, where as business owners, because we're such a unique group, where as business owners are we getting it wrong? Where are we going off the rails? What's caused that? What do you think? What are you seeing? And I'm sure it's going to be different for each of you, but I'd love to hear that.
I'll give you one real fast. I think, you had used that example before, which is I'm too busy to take care of it now. Mm-hmm. And we age a lot faster than we think we are. And by the time something's broken, it's already mostly too late. And I think when you hit, whether it's your 30s, 40s, or 50s, and you start noticing things aren't working the way they used to, I think what we have to think about now, because we're not too far away from being able to fix just about anything. And what you want to do is avoid unnecessary surgeries and body modifications that are irreversible. And when we get to the point where we can either reverse aging or at least stop it or halt it or do genuine repair work, you want to have as many original parts as possible. And so the other thing is, again, if let's say, I know Dr. Sparks and Steve Marler and Regan would all say the same thing, which is the first sign of a heart attack is a heart attack. And, any kind of significant health condition, like I just was with someone last week, and they said, look, I just buried a friend of mine who's 37 and she went in, didn't notice anything, but I had a routine checkup. She had stage 4 colorectal cancer. 5 months later, she was dead. And so it's always someone else. And you think that'll happen to someone else. And then you'll hear people often say, well, I don't want to know. And my response to them is that is the most self-centered, selfish thing you could ever do and inflict on people you actually love. This has nothing to do with you. You think about your family. You think about the people who depend on you. And for you not to take responsibility for your health, it to me is an immoral act. It's just plain wrong. So we have a responsibility to think ahead and plan ahead and also not be a burden on society. And we, as Dr. Sparks said, we live with a sick care system now. It's absurd. Okay. It's the level of obesity and absolute negligence that most countries, I'm going to just pick on Americans for a moment, but if you haven't been to a state fair or Disneyland lately, it's appalling. Okay. Walk around in an airport. It's appalling what you see. 10 years ago, it was less appalling. I would say that even though medicine's getting better and life in general worldwide is getting better, look at the people and I rest my case. Okay, we've got bad behavior going around here, and you don't want to be one of those. You don't want to be a liability.
From the wealth side, in dealing with my clients over the last 40 plus years, it's really lack of awareness. And, clients are familiar with, they go to the doctor and they'll do typically one of two things. They'll give them a prescription or they'll schedule a surgery. They don't know all of these medical advances are even out there. And it's just fascinating when you start educating them and making them aware that maybe you don't need surgery and maybe you should do things that are from a prevention standpoint versus just the symptoms. And once they understand and are aware of it, they're all in and want to learn more and actually do it. But they just don't know the difference because the typical medical profession isn't sharing that.
It's interesting. And so let me ask you this. This event, it's over a number of days, and I know one's coming up in November. So walk me through, what can I expect from when I show up to when I leave? I know our audience is going to be saying, well, wait a minute, you asked me to take how many days off my schedule that I can't already take that time off? What's going on? Walk me through that process of what can I expect and what I'm going to receive when all is said and done.
Dr. Sparks, you want to begin?
A lot coming at you at once, to be honest, which is, we're going to do a lot of imaging up front. So you have a CT scan that's going to cover your heart and do a calcium score, also do chest and abdomen and pelvis. So we call that a full body CT. It generates in the neighborhood of about 1,000 images that we're going to review and gather a tremendous amount of data from. We typically also do an MRI of the brain, so looking at the brain structures itself, as well as the major vessels in the brain to look for signs of stroke and aneurysm, amongst other things. And then we also have an AI-generated report that looks at brain volumes, which can be a very specific marker of things like dementia, traumatic prior brain injury, lack of blood flow to certain parts of the brain. We typically also do some ultrasounds of your carotid arteries in your neck, which are the big vessels that feed your brain again, and your thyroid gland, which is kind of the mother gland of all the other glands in terms of controlling hormones in your body. So it's a massive amount of data we're collecting up front. And people typically are not going to be able to get that kind of workup in the traditional medical system. As we mentioned before, you've got to present to your doctor with a long list of symptoms and problems. The doctor has to check your insurance, make sure your insurance company says it's okay first. And then you might get some of these tests, and then it may take 3 months to get it all done and multiple different visits. So this is a completely different paradigm, and that goes back into changing people's minds, changing how they think about health, and starting to become more accountable instead of just, you go to the doctor, you take the pill they tell you to take, you do the surgery they tell you to do, and you react instead of be proactive.
So it sounds like day one, you're doing the scans, you're running that data through the AI, which I love, because data on its own is just data. What does it mean? It could be a complete waste of data if we don't know how to interpret that. So you're going through all of that. So in the background, while that's happening, what's next? What's after that scan? What can I expect?
Cade, why don't you take the blood and deep work that we do?
Yeah, so along with the body scans, we're going to be doing some intensive comprehensive blood chemistry. So this is where we're looking. So the scans are more the hardware of the body. So you're looking at all the hardware, and then we want to see what's going on with the software. How's everything communicating with itself? And so that's where we'll look at hormones. We'll look at inflammatory markers. We'll look at very detailed blood work that, typically you're not getting from your doctor unless, they're really diving deep. And these are typically things, if you've had certain diagnosis, you can start digging into more and more deep dive blood work. And so that's where it gets really exciting. So we can come up with overall strategies based on your imaging, your scans. So we look at the hardware, we look at the software with the blood work, and then we can really determine where is your biological age currently, as well as what are some things you can do to take your health to the next level.
Love that. So you're taking everything from a holistic point of view, the whole body, what's happening. And correct me if I'm on base or off base. I mean, when we go by what we hear out there in the traditional medical system, and again, no fingers being pointed and all the respect to the medical professionals, but those levels typically are the bare minimum that you don't die. They're not at the level that you're healthy and that you're vibrant. So from the health perspective, can you speak to our community of how you're viewing that? Is that a different view than if I go to my traditional annual checkup at the doctor and they're looking at these levels and they're saying, okay, Jeffrey, you're within that healthy range. What does that healthy range really mean?
I love that you bring that up because that's a really important point. So the way we look at labs is very functional based. Typically, your labs are evaluated based on disease and disease management, kind of how the healthcare system works. And so what's unique, if you look at how they put these lab values together, typically it's the average of that specific demographic at that lab. And so you're ultimately, if you're within normal ranges, you're as healthy as the average sick person, because who goes and gets their blood work done on a regular basis? It's mostly sick people, right? And so to really see, okay, I'm within normal ranges, because those ranges become very broad when you take averages. And so we look at things from a fine tuning and health optimization standpoint. And so from a functional standpoint, our parameters are a lot more narrow and fine tuned from what kind of your traditional medicine would say is, if you're depending on whatever marker it is, there's a certain optimal level. And then there's kind of that, they're color coded. So there's a yellow level that you're kind of heading towards some issues, but maybe not to a disease pattern yet. And then once it gets into that disease pattern, that's where traditional medicine would say you have a problem, you probably need to take a medication for that. Where our approach may be a little different. Sometimes medication's necessary. Sometimes there's a lot of different interventions like, peptides, other lifestyle adjustments that can make huge impacts.
Yeah. Cade, let me just add one other thing. I used to go to the Mayo Clinic and do the executive physicals for about 15 years. And then I had you guys do your magic with your blood panels. And I was absolutely fascinated because it was 2 or 3 times the number of markers and things that they tested, that when I went back to the Mayo later and said, how come you guys don't do that? It was kind of interesting. They really didn't have an answer for me, but there was so many things that they researched and found and checked that, you just assume that they're checking everything. And I didn't find that was the case because it's just lack of knowledge. And until you actually work with people that are on the cutting edge, that may not happen.
And Bryan, you bring up a terrific point, because what I'm hearing for all of us, the way the medical system is today, and again, not pointing any fingers, we really have to become our own advocate. But like we spoke about at the beginning, who has the time to delve into that research and figure out what's going on? It sounds like this is already happening for us with each of you in your own area. You're going through all the different updates and the different techniques that are coming out on the health side, the technology and all the improvements that are available for us, and really bringing it down into a few days, making it very easy for us. You've done all the heavy lifting, and we're just saving a lot of time getting ahead of our health, getting to a better place. But Mike, let me ask you this. So you have all these business owners there, they're going at the conference over the next few days. I know that for entrepreneurs, you help them unleash their superpower. So what's going on with that? They're your colleagues here. We're getting healthier with Brittany and Bryan. We're becoming wealthier. How's it working on your side? What's the superpowers that you're helping to unleash within us?
So first of all, we always make these spouse friendly. As like my wife would like to say, I don't want to be around a bunch of boring business people. And she wants to talk about things that are deep and meaningful, contribution and community. Mm-hmm. So as I said in the very beginning, this is spouse friendly. We are eating fantastic wine, fantastic food. We're creating conversations that we normally don't have. And because our hearts are open by the health work that we do, there's a new level of transparency and vulnerability that take place. We're talking about our families. We're talking about our health. We're talking about our marriages or our business partnerships, really difficult topics. And so when you talk about the expansion, we've got guest speakers there talking about investment opportunities, but we also bring in a big touch of AI. So I've been teaching courses on AI, some of the same material I've shared with the Tony Robbins community, Peter Diamandis. I just spoke at MIT. So we're doing both basic and advanced ways to accelerate and amplify your business. We do brand building. So a lot of our people want to write books. They want to find more effective ways to multiply their value, share their messages. Like you're a podcast host, right? You've found a way to create a platform, but we do a lot of platform creation. And then this particular time, my wife and I are currently building a community in Mexico with 11 homes, a farm-to-table restaurant, regenerative center for life extension. Well, it turns out Regan is one of the folks on the property there. Bryan Sweet and his wife are there. And it turns out Steve Marler's building a home there as well. So we're looking at ways to spend more time, not only together, but also creating a community and also having a little bit of an exit valve, a relief valve. So we're talking about long-term investments, medium-term investments, ways of growing the quality of our relationships and our connections with each other. And, having the most difficult conversations is the closest way to get connected and spend more time together. And Dr. Sparks visited as well. We're about community building. And the best way is make sure your best friends are healthy and alive and mobile as long as possible.
It's interesting, as we're all talking about this, there's ancient wisdom, which has been around for eons, which basically says our inner thoughts, our inner feelings, that's what creates our outer world. That's what we manifest around us. And as we've been going around the table here today, whether it be on the financial side or on the health side or the community side, we're really building, Mike, to your point, a community at the event where we can talk about things without feeling judged. and topics that otherwise people would just either think we're crazy or they would just look at us and say, what's going on here? Don't even, you're insulting me with what you're talking about, but really being open, like-minded people, perhaps who are at a similar station in life where we are. That's hard to do today without the judgment, without the ridicule, without people not really knowing how to understand. It's incredibly valuable to have that kind of outlet right here now today to be able to do that. Thoughts on that?
I'll give you one thing, which is, I say this, I hope I don't offend anyone. There's two kinds of board meetings and boardrooms. There's the fake one and there's the real one. Okay. So we're having real board meetings, not fake ones. We're not sucking up to the lowest common denominator in status quo and the things that, frankly, are societal lies. And I hope I'm not stepping out of place here with the rest of the team, but these are things we all talk about. This is about the real, not sucking up to political or societal conformity, which most of us who are reasonably intelligent know what's BS and what isn't these days. And we don't have a tolerance for that, frankly. If you ain't real, we don't want you there.
And so what it sounds like, and all of you can correct me or tell me, hey, Jeffrey, yeah, what you're saying sounds about right. To use an analogy, so if I'm a high-performance sports car and I'm on a racetrack and it's pedal to the metal and I'm just going around and around nonstop, not making any pit stops, at one point the engine's going to blow, the car is going to just sputter out, I'm going to lose the race. And if we take that now to our lives and the analogy from the racetrack to the racetrack of life or the racetrack of business, most business owners, we're going around that track. We're not taking the pit stops. We think we don't have the time, and we're talking about exits. We have a final exit, the one that we didn't really plan, the one that we don't want, the one that we can have a say over. So when I'm coming to really 2-3 days or more, and I'm surrounding myself in this incredible community, I'm having a health pit stop, a financial pit stop, a business pit stop, a community pit stop, all those things to make me healthier, wiser, more prosperous, and better. How am I doing with that?
Well done.
You're nailing it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. That's a good day. I'll take that. And listen, before we go into wrap-up mode, with every episode on Deep Wealth Podcast, for the listener, we love to have one actionable item. So before they go to that next meeting or phone call or email, and so perhaps we can go around the table here. And if you could think of a low-hanging fruit, low effort, high result based in your area, what would you tell that listener that they can do today to really move the dial, whether it be on the personal side, the business side, the health side? I would love to hear that. And you know what? Ladies first. So Brittany, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. The thing that I go back to for the high achieving entrepreneur, high achieving business owner, we're going a million miles an hour all the time, to your point, Jeffrey. And I think an initial step that somebody could start with is really going back to their value alignment. We talk about how, I've come full circle here with what Mike talked about. We talked about how our families are important to us, or our teams in our business are important to us, or, we do want to live long lives to reap the rewards of all that we've worked so hard for. But if we're not living in congruence with what we're saying, that's the recipe for disaster. So start by, I'm going to go on the EQ side, come back to your value system, reassess where you're at, who you're surrounding yourself with, and start putting yourself in the right rooms with people that are going to hold you accountable to who you say you truly are and who you want to be.
Some terrific advice. I love that, Brittany. Thank you. And thank you for leading the way on that. Okay, who would like to throw their hat in the ring, or I can just randomly pick some people where we're at?
This is Dr. Sparks again. For us, again, we're focused really on the imaging part of this, and I'd like to tell you to come get our CT scanner today too, right? That's the low-hanging, easy fruit for us. Mm-hmm. But I think more important than that is, again, changing mindsets in regard to how you think about health and what you think about the healthcare system. So we're always hit with, all these catchphrases about the buzzwords, right? Trust the experts, trust the science, trust. Well, I'd say don't trust anyone or anything, and start, again, thinking more about how you can take control of your own health and start investigating for yourself, start testing things for yourself, and you'll just assume that the experts and the science out there are correct. Because I think you'll start to find that a lot of things that you hear day in and day out in terms of what you should or shouldn't be doing may not be right for you. So I'd say just kind of start with a blank slate in terms of your mindset and start diving into figuring out how to be accountable for your own health.
I love that. And you know what, Dr. Sparks, it's not just with your health, really in any area of life, of business or otherwise. Hey, don't assume, take responsibility for yourself, take the time and effort, trust but verify perhaps, and see where that takes you. Absolutely love that. Cade, how about you? What would you say? What would be one action item today that a listener could take right away to move the dial?
Yeah, so we have some essential habits that we try to get all of our clients to implement with our programs. And I would say there's actually not one, there's 6. And so I'm going to go through these, but it would be like fine tune your sleep, get rid of sugar, move 30 minutes in the morning, get outside 30 minutes in the evening, and hydrate. So get some good electrolytes and try to get some cold exposure. It's actually going to do some really good stuff for you.
Yeah, that is so terrific. And you know what? Most of that is free. The best things in life are free, and that really moves the dial on our health. Mike, why don't you lead us next? And then Brian, you'll bring us home. So one actionable item for you, Mike, what would that be?
Well, one of the things that we put together for all your listeners are some tools and some freebies at WLI.live, so which stands for Wealth Longevity International.live. And when you go there, you'll get, first of all, Regan Archibald's peptide blueprint and your fitness 50 benchmarks. You'll get Dr. Sparks and Steve Marler's advanced longevity, what's called the 30-30-30 approach. What should you do for the next 30 days, 30 months, and 30 years? You'll get the book Dream Architecture from Brian and Brittany. You get a copy of my book, Your Next Act, and my advanced AI guide, which is like a whole step-by-step system. So it's basically a way to sample and taste what we do. And if you go to WLI.live/wizard, that is our information on our next experience that we're doing together. So if you want to see what it's like to actually do one of these experiences, that particular one's taking place in November, but we're planning on doing some in the future. But here's what I would say is if you want to potentially meet or connect with what could become your next new best friend or a business partner or a relationship, or just learn and experience something you never have imagined before, this is what we're all about. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look back at your life, we're going to look and judge our lives based upon the experiences we've had and who we've had them with. And hopefully that's with long life and great health.
That's terrific. Mike, sign me up. I mean, it doesn't get any better. And for our listeners, all that will be in the show notes. It'll be a point and click. It doesn't get any easier. And Mike, what a great example of how small daily actions, going to a website, clicking on a link, getting some books, those small daily actions over time, they add up to huge results. And Brian, why don't you bring us home in terms of an actionable item? What could someone do today to really move the dial for their life?
Yeah, I would just end it by saying, I think we all owe ourselves the ability to be aware. And what WLI does is it brings all the things that you probably have no idea, and we don't know what we don't know. But there are a lot of things that we call threat detections as it relates to wealth and health and your future. And you can very easily in a 3-day period learn more about all of those areas than you ever have in maybe your whole life. And you just owe yourself to learn more about things that are available to improve each and every one of those areas.
Absolutely love that as well. And let me ask you this, while we're resonating about that and taking actions, and you've heard it from really people in the trenches, it doesn't get any better than this. I would be remiss if we didn't have our ritual. Every show, every single guest, and Brittany, Brian, you're no stranger to the Deep Wealth community. You've been through this. We have a really fun question, a quick thought experiment. Let me set that up for you, and then we'll go around the table. It'll be ladies first with Brittany, and then we'll take it from there. Here's the thought experiment. Let me set this up as a fun question. So when you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that fabulous DeLorean car that can take you to any point in time. So the fun part is tomorrow morning, and as each of you look outside your window, not only is the DeLorean car there, the door is open, it's waiting for you to hop on in, which you do, and you can now go back to any point in your life, perhaps when you're a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be. What would be a sentence or two that you would tell your younger self of, hey, here's some life wisdom or some life lessons, or do this, but don't do that? What would that sound like? Brittany, why don't you lead us off?
I love this question. I think I would go back to my younger years when I thought being independent was the way to go, and say, Brittany, lean on people a little more often. It will take you further faster.
Love that. And as we spoke about a little bit earlier, hey, no one is self-made. It takes an entire community to get us to where we got to and where we're going. Some terrific advice. Mike, how about yourself? What would you say?
Get a colonoscopy at 40. That would be a good one. I've saved a lot of lives since I've gone through the pain. And I wound up writing a book called Cancerpreneur, because when I went through this, I had no support and no help other than talking to doctors. There weren't any tools for an entrepreneur going through cancer. And I love what Brittany just said, but I would just simply say, I wish I would have taken my health sooner. And the lies I told myself as a younger person, I lied to myself saying, hey, I'm taking care of myself. I'm working out enough. No, I wasn't. I was just beating up my body. You know, I like to say my first business cost me my first marriage. My second and third businesses nearly cost me my life, my second marriage and relationship with my only son. And I didn't get coached soon enough and invest in great coaches and advisors soon enough. And that's really what it comes down to. And all of us, what we have in common is we know each other from Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan or Genius Network with Joe Polish. That's one of the things that we all have in common with one another is we met in amazing groups with amazing people.
Terrific advice, sir. And being a 17 times best-selling author, you know a thing or two about books and getting the word out there. And thank you for that. Cade, how about yourself? What would be the advice to your younger self? What are you saying?
Oh, man. So I really, especially in my early 20s, took my health for granted, similar to Mike, where, I'd eat whatever I could put in my mouth. I was pretty fit, athletic, and that soon deteriorated. And that's actually how I ended up working with my brother Regan, is he saved my life as far as health goes. I was about 50 pounds heavier than I am now, extreme exhaustion. And I was like in my late 20s. Like, it was not a late onset. It was like I was pretty young when all that went down and happened. And so, yeah, I would definitely want to help prevent that, because it's been a good 10 plus years of just really working on my health, and it's been a great journey. But at the same time, it would be nice to have those prior 10 years back in health.
Absolutely. But you know what? You have really, looking back, it helps you look forward with a better outlook and really a brighter future with that. Thank you for sharing that. Brian, what about yourself? What are you telling your younger self? What does that sound like?
Mine would be somewhat similar to Mike's, but it's that you can never fail. You're either winning or you're learning. So what does that mean? Take risks, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that goes to being in rooms with smart people. So having great coaches or being in amazing masterminds where you're not the smartest guy in the room is amazingly helpful. And the more I'm around those people, the better my life becomes.
Terrific advice. And for the listeners, you're hearing from the trenches. This is not theory. This is not textbook stuff. This is stuff that actually works, hard-earned lessons. Dr. Sparks, bring us home. What would be your younger self advice that you'd be sharing?
Gosh, there's about a million things running through my mind. It's hard to pick one, but I would say learn early on that the crowd's is usually not right. Whatever the crowd is doing is usually not the right thing. And that goes into business, into medicine, into all kinds of different areas of life. And for me, I think in medicine in particular, it was learning to respect the experts, but also understand that. And I got to see this up close again and being in some wonderful places, is that I was just as good as those experts were. And we all are. We're all smart, intelligent people. We're capable of reason and logic and delving into details and questioning things. And again, just kind of to my point earlier, start to realize that you can trust yourself to take care of yourself and to learn and to make good choices and to not just assume that whatever the crowd's doing is the best thing to do.
Take the path less ridden. Absolutely love that. Well, it's official. It is a wrap. And I really want to thank you all for your insights, for your wisdom. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, as we wrap up this episode, may each of you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
The Deep Wealth experience was definitely a game changer for me.
This course is one of the best investments you will ever make, because you will get an ROI of 100 times that. Anybody who doesn't go through it will lose millions.
If you don't have time for this program, you'll never have time for a successful liquidity.
It was the best value of any business course I've ever taken. The money was very well spent.
Compared to when we first began, today I feel better prepared, but in some respects, maybe less prepared, not because of the course, but because the course brought to light so many things that I thought we were on top of that we need to fix.
I 100% believe there's never a great time for a business owner to allocate extra hours into his or her week or day. So it's an investment that will yield results today. I thought I will reap the benefit of this program in 3 to 5 years down the road. But as soon as I stepped forward into the program, my mind changed immediately.
There was so much value in the experience that the time I invested paid back so much for the energy that was expended.
The Deep Wealth experience compared to other programs is the top. What we learned is very practical. Sometimes you learn stuff that is great to learn, but you never use it. The stuff we learned from Deep Wealth experience, I believe is going to benefit us both.
I've done an executive MBA. I've worked for billion-dollar companies before. I've worked for smaller companies before I started my business. I've been running my business successfully now for getting close to a decade. We're on a growth trajectory. Reflecting back on the Deep Wealth, I knew less than 10% what I know now. Maybe close to 1% even.
Hands down, the best program in which I've ever participated. And we've done a lot of different things over the years. We've been in other mastermind groups, gone to many seminars, workshops, conferences, retreats, read books. This was so different. I haven't had an experience that's anything close to this in all the years that we've been at this. It's 5-star, A+.
I would highly recommend it to any super busy business owner out there. And Deep Wealth is an accurate name for it. This program leads to deeper wealth and happier wealth, not just deeper wealth. I don't think there's a dollar value that could be associated with such an experience and knowledge that could be applied today and forever.
Are you leaving millions on the table? Please visit www.deepwealth.com/success to learn more. If you're not on my email list, you'll want to be. Sign up at www.deepwealth.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, if it added value, if you walked away with some new insights and strategies, please leave a review on your favorite podcast channel. Reviews help us reach new listeners, grow the show, and continue to create content that you'll enjoy. And as we wrap up this episode, as always, please stay healthy and safe.